If you're considering making a move here to Michigan, let me save you from making the same mistakes that I've seen so many families make over and over and over again when making that move here. Now, it's not just about picking the right house. It's actually about picking the right community. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the top mistakes that families make when making that move here to Michigan, how to avoid them so you don't end up making the same mistakes that don't fit your lifestyle and just end up costing you time and money. So make sure you stick around to the end because mistake number 3 is the one that cost me and my wife dearly when making that move back here to Michigan. And I want to make sure you don't make the same mistake as well. Hey, if you're new to me and new to my channel, my name's Eric and I make videos that are all things living here in Michigan, helping you guys relocate and make some better decisions when doing so. Now, my wife and I moved back to Michigan after a stint in California, and I'll be honest with you, we made some major mistakes, and we didn't nail it moving here for the first time either. So we chased the job, we chased the house, and we forgot about the lifestyle. And nowadays I help families from all over the country relocate here to Michigan with a focus on your goals, the values that are important to you, and the lifestyle that you're chasing. So if you're moving here for a fresh start, maybe better schools, or just peace of mind, this video right here is your playbook to doing it the right way. So I'm going to start with one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make most often, which is mistake number 1, and it's choosing the house before you've even looked or set your mind on the community that you want to live in. Now, this is by far the biggest mistake I see people make, and it's the easiest one to fall into, and for good reason, because you're sitting somewhere in a different state, and the only thing that you have is your phone or a computer, and you're trying to figure out what life is like in Michigan. That's a tough task, for anybody. So you turn to videos like this, or you start where most people start is, well, let me start looking at homes to get a feel for the real estate market or what homes look like in those areas, but it doesn't give you a sense of community. Now, it's really easy to fall into it because looking at homes is awesome. I love doing it, okay? Look at the perfect kitchen, the open floor plan, the big backyard, and you start even imagining your life in that house before you even step foot in the community or the neighborhood. So here's the deal. If the community doesn't fit your lifestyle, trust me, the house is not going to matter. Okay, that house could be amazing. It's not going to be the house for you if you don't love where you live. So at this point, you really need to ask yourself, what does my day-to-day life actually look like? Okay, these are the questions that you should be asking yourself. And these are the questions that my wife and I, really focused on when we started looking for our house, when she was pregnant with our first daughter. And we started really getting serious about what is actually important to us, because what was important to us before kids was not the same. Got to start asking, what does your day-to-day actually look like? Where are your kids going to go to school? Are there sidewalks in the community? Are there coffee shops nearby that you can walk to? Are there gyms in the neighborhood or the community that you actually want to go to? It reminds me, one of our clients bought this home in a remote area, and for whatever reason, I just had this intuition in the back of my head that I don't feel like this is the community for them. And lo and behold, 3 months later, they called me and said, Eric, I think we made a mistake. We want to sell the house and move a little bit closer to the city. And that was great. I helped them through it, but what they realized was that house on acreage, which was absolutely beautiful. I know exactly why they chose that home and the acreage and everything about it. The home was great. However, they started envisioning their life being a little bit more active in the community, and being homebodies and, staying on their land wasn't kind of how they viewed both of those blending together. So we ended up selling the house, moving them closer to the city, and everything worked out. But those are the type of mistakes. They fell in love with the house instead of the community. All right, and mistake number 2 is underestimating the Michigan seasons. And this is a hot topic for a lot of people. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people from Florida and California, and the first question that you guys have, I love you guys, by the way, the first question is always, okay, how bad is the winter? My kids have never even experienced snow, or maybe the significant other has never been in snow, and they want to know, what is winter like? Okay. And it depends on where you're at in Michigan, and that's the honest answer. Here in Southeast Michigan, which if you're going to be a Michigander, you need to know this. This is Michigan, by the way. Well, for most people in the comments, this is Michigan because we do have an upper peninsula and a lower peninsula. But the lower part of Michigan, Southeast Michigan here is Metro Detroit, Ann Arbor. This is where 50% of the population in Michigan actually live. So when you're on the west side of the state or along Lake Michigan, you get this lake effect snow, and winters are much more harsh on this side. You also got northern Michigan, which is closer to Canada. You get a bunch more snow up there. It's just colder, a lot more snow, a lot more precipitation. But here in southeast Michigan, it's a little bit more mild. It's not that we don't get snow at all. We just get a more mild winter than the other parts in the state. So if you are looking to be in southeast Michigan, question that you have is, how are winters? Well, they could be pretty mild. And if you're on the west side or northern Michigan, they could be pretty heavy on the snow, and ice. So, it just depends on where you're going to live. So the fact that Michigan does have a winter, well, that is not the mistake. The mistake is not knowing how the winters or the other seasons impact your lifestyle. Now, when you look at different cities and you look at them in July versus what February might look like, it's going to be completely different. So it depends on where you find, your interests, whether you're, liking the snow a lot more than the hot, muggy days in the summer. Could be a completely different lifestyle change for you, experiencing all 4 seasons here in Michigan. But my best advice to you for the winter is get a good pair of gloves, boots, and a winter jacket. You'll be all set, be nice and toasty, out in pretty much any weather. And for a vehicle, if you can swing it and buy a vehicle that has 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, that is definitely the way to go. 2-wheel, front-wheel drive, yeah, that's okay. You're going to be fine on the road. It's not like you're going to run off the road or slip on the ice and crash, but a little bit more traction can be a little bit more peace of mind. Like my wife, for example, she grew up driving, Grand Am, which had front wheel drive, and she got through many winters, driving. But nowadays with the kids, it's like, I feel just safer, having all wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. I just like it a lot better. All right, and that brings us to mistake number 3, which is ignoring the school district nuances. Now, you might not even know these exist, okay, to be honest with you. And this one trips up even the smartest of families. You guys are searching top schools in Michigan and think that's all there is to it. School rankings don't tell the full story. And what you're not seeing is the districts that, have kind of an average ranking, maybe a B ranking, but they've got a phenomenal community involvement. Or maybe you got a highly ranked school, it's an A, and the class sizes are just maxed out, and your kid's just another number. Or rural schools, with great values, but limited enrichment opportunities for your kids. So, all these things that as a parent we're kind of juggling, but diving deeper into the community and what involvement and the school class sizes and all those things. And this is why we talk to you guys about what kind of education and values are really important, what sports or arts, programs are important to you. Do you want to send your kids to a school where class sizes are a little bit smaller, or does that not really matter to you? For these reasons, some families say that Saline or Ann Arbor or Brighton or Rochester Hills are just not the schools for them. Maybe it's a faith-based education. Maybe it's, where sports are really important, and not every high school or school has the specific sport program that you might be going for. Hockey is one of the examples. Like, not every high school has hockey. It's really expensive, to put a hockey program together and actually be competitive and get kids, to play hockey. And that's a really niche program. This is the point where you really need to kind of start digging through things and making heads or tails of like what's important to you. This is the school, the community, all things to consider. And the point of this is to choose the school based on what's best for you, your family, and your child, and not just the zip code. All right, so this brings us to mistake number 4, and this one is a big one, okay? Do not skip this one. I promise you, you will regret it if you do. Now, mistake number 4 is not spending enough time in the city that you're considering moving to. Now, this could be an area, this could be a county, this could be a specific city, or maybe even a specific neighborhood, but this is a game changer when you do, okay? You might have done your research and you narrowed down like, yeah, we want to be in this city or that city. Well, not every part of each city is equal. Okay, there's a little bit rougher areas over here. Maybe this is like, the area, and here's a wild card that I'm going to send to you guys. Maybe there's a part of a city that's actually in a different school district. Okay, that's happened before where I've had a client look at a house, like, we want to send our kids to this school. We're looking in this city. I'm like, hey, did you know that this is actually a different school's zone? And they're like, no, we had no idea. So if you can swing it, spend a few days here. Okay, I've said this before, but I want to remind you guys, the perfect trip to Michigan to scout out and have your scouting trip is a Thursday, flying on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I want you to act as a local. Okay, that means go out to eat go to the bookstore, go to the coffee shop, look at the commute times. Okay, pick a few communities or neighborhoods and drive downtown. Drive to some of the more popular destinations or the office complexes. I'll point you in a few different directions here. But drive as you're going to work or maybe coming home from work. Depending on which time of the day you're going to be visiting these cities. So those are the things that I think are really important. To get a feel for the ebbs and flow of life in that city, and you're acting as a local. And here's a pro tip. Go to the grocery store. Okay, these are your neighbors. If you want to know who lives in a community, I've had somebody come back to me and like, dude, we went to the grocery store. Eric, best community ever. Like, we stopped and talked to everybody in that grocery store. Everybody's so nice. Like, we want to live here. It's these little things that can make the big difference. And trust me, you'll learn more about the community that you're considering in those 48 hours of being there, spending time in the coffee shop, the grocery store, just kind of eating out, than you will if you spend a year looking on Zillow at just houses. Now, what you're going to find out is what the pace of life actually feels like in those cities. And, maybe you have 3 or 4 on your list as well. Try to split those up, spend a little bit of time in each of those cities, maybe the morning for one or the afternoon for another and the evening, and then kind of rotate the next day and see what those are. But, we have families come into town all the time and they are looking at these cities and they will text me on date number 2 and like, Eric, this city's out. We don't like it. We drove by, the downtown. It's just not for us, right? Whatever the reason is, doesn't matter. That's your decision. But it's one of the best things that you can do. So if you do have the time, get boots on the ground, do your scouting trip, and let me know when you are coming into town so I can give you an itinerary and places to check out. All right, so that brings us to mistake number 5, which is treating this move to Michigan like just any other move. And here's the truth. Moving to Michigan can be a fresh start for a lot of people, but only if you treat it like one. A lot of families that I talk to express, a lot of reasons why they're moving to Michigan. Some are, hey, we got a job opportunity and just like too good to pass up. And other people are kind of in the same boat my wife and I were, where we were born and raised in Michigan. We have that childhood growing up here, the summers, the winters, the falls, and can't forget the springs, right? So not only the nostalgia of, summers and things in Michigan, but our families here. And that's a lot of reasons why, we help so many people like you who are maybe thinking about moving back to Michigan because you were born and raised here. And you're like, yeah, I've been gone for 15, 20 years. It's time to get back, and grandma's getting old, grandpa's getting old, or mom and dad are aging, and our kids are growing and maybe we want to be around them. That was all the things, right? You kind of know where I'm going with this, but just treating it like any other move and landing close to home or near the office is a huge mistake that I see a lot of people make. I made the same mistake when I moved back from California to Michigan, and my job was in Ann Arbor. So I said, we're living in Ann Arbor. Well, long-term, Ann Arbor just wasn't the place for us. We found our home in Brighton, Michigan, and a lot of folks that I talk to are also open to a lot of other areas around. And when I start explaining, some of these areas to them, and I've shared these on videos, so you probably caught on of some of these smaller towns and some of these areas that, have the Costco in town or the Target, or maybe you're looking at a city that, just doesn't speak to you at all from a cultural perspective. Those things are important. You're here on this video because you're doing your homework, and those are the things that are going to make the difference for you to make sure you're landing in the right city or the right community over really not loving where you live. So maybe relocating to Michigan is one of the best decisions you'll ever make, but only if you do it the right way. Choosing the community before the square footage is super important. Don't sleep on the seasons, you guys. We have all 4 seasons here, and dig deeper into the schools. Okay, school districts, sports programs, different curriculums. Those things vary from school to school, and school sizes, will vary community to community. And visit first. Get boots on the ground, right? Make sure you get into the communities, act as a local, right? If you want my itinerary and things to do while you're here, just drop in the comments, or better yet, reach out and we'll talk about that on our Zoom call. And treat this move as an opportunity to design the lifestyle that actually fits you and your family. So if you want to make better decisions when making that move here to Michigan and avoid all of these costly mistakes when making that move here, well, go ahead and book a call with me. All my contact information is down below. No pressure. We'll jump on a Zoom call together, get a game plan together to make your move here as smooth as possible. And if you found this video helpful, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you're looking for more videos, all things Michigan, I got you. We got plenty of videos here on the channel. We got playlists, we got city tours, we got pros and cons, we got listicle videos here to show you guys what life here in Michigan is actually like. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.